Okay, so some big Dragon Age news just dropped the other night. It was late for me, so I'm covering it now. In fact, somebody on my server asked me what I thought about it, and my initial reaction, which is about this name change, it's a cosmetic change, it's not a big deal, but I looked into it more significantly, and I think there are a couple of things that are worthy of being talked about. Now, at the outset, I need to say something that, despite my immense pessimism and skepticism towards the prospects of a good Dragon Age game, or really any game produced by Bioware, a lot of people mistake that for wanting them to fail. I don't want Bioware to fail. I want them to do well. I want this game to be a good game, as I do indeed have some level of non-insignificant attachment to the Dragon Age franchise, and I want the game to be good. However, skepticism is warranted. So, whilst I want them to succeed and I want the game to do very well, we have to take all of that with a pinch of salt. Anyway, the original name of the game was slated to be Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and this has been changed to Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now, as I said initially, I thought this was just a cosmetic change, but it is important. Now, I will be talking about certain Dragon Age spoilers here. It's a bit unavoidable, all things considered, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video that you at least know the basics of Dragon Age lore. So we already know the premise, the basic premise of Dragon Age the Veilguard. Solis, a character from the previous game, Dragon Age Inquisition, is the immortal mage / god Fenris, the trickster god, the wolf, the Dreadwolf. And he plans on tearing down the Veil. What is the Veil? The Veil is the barrier, magical barrier that separates the, you could say, material world from the world of magic, the Fade. Now we learn in Inquisition that this is artificial, that it was not always there, that it was erected by Solis himself to prevent his fellow gods, mages, however you want to term them, the Evaneris, from escaping. These were dictators, tyrants, madwomen, and madmen, and Solis tells you that he had no other choice, he had to do it. At the end of Trespasser, that DLC, which was very good I thought, he says that he is going to tear down the Veil and restore the world of the elves, and that action will destroy the world for everybody else. Everyone who's not an elf will perish. So that's basically the premise. Solis has this big plan to restore the Veil, but it's going to destroy the world, and only the elves will survive. So far, so good. So the original title, of course, was Dreadwolf, because he's the main opponent. Or is he? It seems, according to several articles and publications, that's not the case. This doesn't surprise me at all, but he will also be going up against the Evaneris, the elven god kings that he banished probably millennia ago. And it makes sense that the name has been changed because your purpose, obviously, is to prevent the fusion of the Fade and the actual world. You do not want the Veil to be torn down because it would be so destructive and almost nobody apart from elves would survive, at least according to Solis. That is a very bad idea. And so the name of Veilguard makes sense because you are a guardian against that outcome, presumably. In addition to that, there are other things that have been revealed regarding the combat, and this is a big one because on Tuesday, and hopefully I'll be covering it, I have to see what my work schedule is like, there will be a whopping 15 minutes of actual gameplay, which includes combat and other things, the footage of which will be taken directly from the initial stages of the game, so no real spoilers there. And this will be the first time, consider this, in eons, that we're actually going to see gameplay footage of a Bioware game. And that's what makes this really big, that and the fact that we've been waiting for Dragon Age the Veilguard for nigh 10 years now. So we're going to see if they can put their money where their mouth is. But with this revelation, we've also found out, officially, that your party has now been reduced to a party of 3. You, the protagonist, I think your name is Rook, it's not entirely clear yet, and 2 other people. You have a total of 7 companions. We don't know who these are. It seems unlikely that Varric is going to be one of them, which is disappointing, but nonetheless. And on top of that, it's going to be some kind of combination of action, as it's not a proper RPG, turn-based or otherwise, with some elements of real-time with pause, in the sense that the developers have said that there's going to be a wheel, a combat wheel, that you can pause and press to bring about different types of interactions, attacks, essentially for the sake of tactics and strategy. So it seems to be some weird mishmash of what Dragon Age has become, a button-mashing action RPG with some older elements that allow you more fine control over the actions of your characters. Now, on top of that, it's not entirely clear, but a couple of years ago, it was revealed that your companions are not going to be under your control directly. In essence, they're going to function like squad mates. Now, all of this is very reminiscent of Mass Effect. In Mass Effect, you had a lot of the similar functionality. You could give instructions to your squad mates to do certain things. They had their own powers, keybind them, and you could create certain synergies, but they were not under your control. Now, for many people, this is not a welcome change. This is a big departure from what people traditionally consider RPGs. For other people, it might be a relief because they only want to focus on the protagonist. Either way, we have to bear in mind that with every iteration of Dragon Age, there's been something new. Not always for the better, one should add. So what we can expect here is also something new. Probably some combination of button mashing, action kind of gameplay, as well as some elements of tactics in as much as you have this combat wheel that you can interact with and then direct your companions with. But until we see gameplay, there's not much to be said about the combat. And when we've seen the combat, we can say a lot more about it. So for now, I will be cautiously optimistic just because why not? For me, ultimately, this is about the story. I don't expect this to be the most amazing piece of writing ever written for a game. But I am attached to the story of Solus and the general lore of Thetis. I've said this many times in the videos I produced about Dragon Age. So I probably will get it, and I want to experience what happens with respect to the world of Thetis. And maybe, just maybe, the writing will be decent. Maybe the companions will be decent. Again, skepticism is almost certainly warranted, but I want to be cautiously optimistic. I want the game to succeed, and ultimately, I hope that it's a lot better than a lot of us skeptics think it probably will be. So I would say the best policy right now is wait until Tuesday, which won't tell us the entire story of the game, so to speak, but it will tell us something. At the very least, we'll have a better sense of combat. We know that they focus a lot on combat. They claim it's really fun and improved. I guess we'll see. I think there's a final, very important point to be made here. And that is, as I've said several times in several videos, this is quite literally BioWare's last chance. It's their last chance to really succeed, to show the world how brilliant they are, whether that's actually the case or not. And so it seems to me logical, inasmuch as they have the talent and the skill, that they would be giving their absolute all to this game to make sure it sells well. Because they're probably acutely aware that if this game does not do well, BioWare could very easily be shut down, just like a half a dozen other studios that have been shut down. So it follows from that, at least in my mind, that this game probably is going to be at the very least decent enough to sell well. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you like my content, you can leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. It'd be much appreciated. Until next time, take care.